stayed with you, your brother kind of gives me the creeps.
Samuel Clemens writes and directs The Drowned, also known as The Waterhouse. So what's the story? It focuses on a group of criminals. We have these three men who are criminals and have done a kind of art heist, and they have arranged to meet at this safe house, which is this remote coastal property. Now there is actually a fourth member of this gang, this woman. But when these three guys get there, all at sort of separate times, they just discover that this woman either hasn't been there at all or has been there and something has happened. So this causes a little bit of alarm. And suspicion starts to fall on what might be going on there. There's a bit of paranoia. These are criminals after all. But matters get a little bit more complicated during the night, when these guys are asked for help by this group of women who have seemingly washed up on shore from a kind of some type of boat wreck, and they are sort of feel obliged to help them. They don't want to kind of raise suspicion. So now we have these three very forward women who are in this house. But there's something a little bit off about them, you might say. Not only that, these guys seem to be losing time. There seems to be this strange sound which is kind of emanating from the sea. And when they hear it, they are sort of transfixed and kind of wake up a short time later and can't explain what has happened. And as time goes by, we will realise what the truth is. What will happen? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. So let us discuss The Drowned. This is a great example of a lower budget movie which is maximising its kind of production based on the budget that it's got. You know, it's not trying to overextend itself. It knows its budget limitations and works within that. Because this movie is very, very effective without being a particularly kind of action heavy movie. Lots of VFX, lots of kind of set pieces. So let's talk about it. What works in this movie's favour? I'm going to start with the technical elements first, because this is, I feel, the strongest elements of this movie. This is a very sort of stylised feel to it. First of all, the cinematography. So a lot of this movie takes place when it's dark. And we have these great scenes outside where we have this dark ocean, you know, rolling up, and we have the kind of the moonlight being reflected off it and things like this. This great big full moon, and it looks fantastic. It really does look like a kind of hyper-realised version of this kind of like this natural environment. That's very, very effective. Equally impressive is the sound design. We have these strange sounds that kind of come off the water and affects our trio of criminals, and just the use of sound and how it can inform the story here, very, very strong. And you're constantly like listening out for what might be going on. And then also the camera work here, again, when we have these sort of sequences where we feel like there's something coming off the water, we have these kind of like almost Evil Dead style POV shots flying off the water and things like this, and this sort of stylized elements sort of hinting at the fact that there's something kind of going on there, maybe something supernatural afoot here. So I feel this movie really works well without really having anything explicit on screen, because of just the way it's made and just the kind of like the assured hand that our production has kind of clearly got. So it looks fantastic. I have to say as well, I found the characters quite intriguing, particularly of our three criminals, all of whom are sort of quite different and have different kind of like point of views on stuff. And yes, these are our protagonists, even though they are criminals. They're not trying to be killers or anything like that. They don't want to hurt people. In actual fact, they go out their way to help these women. So we do have a sense of you know, rooting for these guys to a degree. And their sort of interactions with one another, their understandable paranoia that's kind of reflected by the kind of the performances from our cast here, are all pretty good. And then these women who sort of show up, they have this sort of strange otherworldliness and the kind of somewhat off kilter without being sort of too sort of suspicious. There's clearly sort of they're so like forward in things. Again, it's some interesting sort of choices here. So I thought the acting was all pretty strong. And we have this kind of mystery, and yes, there is supernatural elements at play here. I won't sort of spell it out for you. I think there's a shot towards the end of the movie, which is, I suppose, the most kind of out there shot, but it looks fantastic. It's not actually anything too gratuitous or particularly sort of, you know, out there, but it just looks great and it looks haunting. And this movie just has this real haunting vibe to it, and I thought it was really strong. And then we do just the story in itself. We have this kind of mystery about what's kind of going on, and you know, what is the kind of this? If there is a supernatural element, what is it? How is it going to affect our three criminals? What's happened to the fourth criminal? What's the deal with these women? And it's this paranoia by these guys. Is this going to kind of boil over? So I think there's, you know, there's quite a lot of pokers in the fire for this movie, so to speak. So there's actually a reasonable amount of story elements kind of going on in this film. Do I have any complaints? I'll be honest with you, nothing major. I think this movie, at times, could be accused of being perhaps over-stylized, particularly I think in the Evil Dead style POV shots where you think something's coming and it's, you know, it maybe is a little less than you think, should we say. Perhaps people will be a little bit dissatisfied with the lack of kind of VFX and things like that. I personally actually think it works in the sort of subtle nature of this movie, but I will say people may be expecting a more overt sort of creature feature, may be disappointed with its subtlety here. And also there's some elements here where I question the kind of the wisdom of these kind of characters. For example, they go and help these women. Did they really need to kind of like ask them to stay? Why didn't they kind of, they have a car, why didn't they kind of get out when kind of things started looking like they were kind of getting a bit hairy out there? Again, there's a few things here that I feel maybe you could explain away, but you know, it needed to be addressed a little bit more, in my opinion. The ending, it's fairly obvious, I think, the broad strokes about what's happening. If you have watched more than 10 horror movies, you'd probably get an idea of what's going on. So the mystery is not exactly that mysterious, I have to say. And I don't know, the ending wasn't bad, but it didn't quite land for me. But overall, it's a solid movie, very well made, pretty captivating story and performances, and just the stylistic choices overall. A few minor quibbles, but for the most part, this was a strong film. I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. I actually thought it was a pretty strong film overall. Have you seen it? Would you see it based on what I've told you? Please do let me know your thoughts, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.